Few games had more anticipation for me in 2023 than Viewfinder. When I saw the trailer for this game, I genuinely went, what? And that very rarely happens to someone who's been a gamer since the 80s. In this game, in a first-person puzzle platformer, you are armed with a camera and you can take photos of pretty much almost everything in this entire game and use those photos to 3D print whatever you've taken into reality and change literally the reality in front of your eyes. So it could be photos you've taken, it could be paintings off the fridge, it could be sketches or screenshots, it could be that you've gone to the photocopier and you're re-photocopying the same thing over and over again. It's up to you. And this is the beauty of Viewfinder, and I think people that want to rush through games might find this big selling point for me personally a bit of a, what? You can solve a level like hundreds and hundreds of different ways. And that's really, really fascinating because from a level design perspective, A, that must be an absolute pain in the bum to have built in Viewfinder itself. But for me, I found that instead of thinking about elegant solutions, I was thinking of the most craziest and weirdest ways to solve a puzzle and had a totally different enjoyment factor from Viewfinder from that perspective alone, never mind just getting to the end of a level. The beauty of this game is just in its open-endedness, and so I think if you're one of those gamers that want to speedrun things and get all the way through it as quickly as possible, yeah, you're probably going to be done in 4 to 5 hours with this game and kind of go, oh, well, I could do the same mechanic over and over and over again and get to the end. And yep, your views are valid, but that's not how I played this game and that's not my experience. Instead, I found myself trying to take photos of really stupid, weird things and then 3D printing those and then trying to use those as platforms to get from A to B. Or I would be looking at all of the different hidden pictures and paintings that you could pick up along the way that would give you trophies and achievements for finding weird things, like 3D printing a Tamagotchi, for example. There's one where you 3D print an old games console thing and end up like in a weird Minecraft area. Perhaps you really like abstract geometric shapes and so you want to pull it all together so that you make things that look aesthetically pleasing. It's entirely up to you, and it's that freedom and true freedom of being able to solve a level how you specifically think it should be done is really what was the chef's kiss piece de resistance for Viewfinder. Now, let's move away from that philosophical, like, moment. Like, what is this game actually like to play? The game handles or plays like a traditional first-person puzzle platformer. So, very simple movement, a simple hop jump. The camera movement kind of plays out like a very traditional photography game as well. So, press one button to get the camera out, and then you use the analog stick to have like a full 360 spherical rotation around, so you can look all the way up and also all the way down through your feet as well, and indeed some of the levels require you to be doing some of that to get good solutions. And so the game is really easy to understand and feels familiar. It's that photograph mechanic that's really tricky to kind of go, oh wow, I can literally do anything, and then you go a bit mad with it. The careful thing here is that you're trying to always get to your end platform, like portal point, these little orange viewfinders, so that you can then dive through to the next level. And so what you've got to do, and it's really the only like game over mechanic that you've got, is if you do 3D print over the top of one of those portals, you then can't escape the level, so you will have to kind of go back and undo things again. Viewfinder has a rewind button, and again, I think this is technically a marvel as well, because it's recording all of your movements as you go around. So you can press and hold and like slowly rewind back through time like a VHS tape, or you can do a double tap and it will just go all the way back to the last time you took a photo or laid down a photo. And so it's the best version of an undo that I've seen in a 3D platformer possibly ever, and very aesthetically pleasing as well. So there is a story that's going on in Viewfinder, but it's taking place in two different realities. So the main story that's going on will be told through gramophone recordings, and this is of like a collection of scientists who are trying to solve climate change and stop the end of the world occurring, basically. And these are quite interesting because each scientist has its own hub world with its own levels inside. So you get to hear them chatting amongst each other, but you also get to see how they've built out their home that then reflects their all different eccentric personalities. They'll also then have their personalities bleeding into the levels too. So, like all of their different like homeliness bits will be dotted around the edges of the screen or on like ledges, or there might be a sofa with like some cards on or something like that. And there's loads and loads of like tiny little nuances that do a lot of good world building visually as well as sonically from the conversations you've got that are going on. Now, I found that part of the story interesting, fascinating, quite techie at times, but really, really enjoyable to have going on in the background whilst you're trying to solve the puzzles, as well as looking at the world around you and just being silly and trying out different things. The less said about the modern day characters, the better. So you play as a modern day character, but whilst you are mute throughout the game, there's another character called Jessie who is like the epitome of everything I hate about modern day characters and writing. It sounds really harsh. But she just is like nails on a chalkboard, over the top, enthusiastic, sarcastic, passive aggressive and frustrating to listen to. Doesn't really add too much to the story except for some forced jeopardy. But yeah, she's almost trying to explain too much of what's going on technically, whereas I felt like my brain was already there and I got it, if that makes sense. So I don't need someone screaming about the world collapsing in on me when literally I'm trying to go through a wall and the photo that I just taken has collapsed in and is now a wall and I can't walk through it anymore. It's that kind of weird double-handled over the top enthusiasm didn't land very well, and so the character of Jessie I just felt like I wanted to shake. Judging by the comments, I'm also not alone, because I thought, is this just me having an abnormal reaction to this character? No, quite a lot of people seem to have done, so I found that quite funny. It is literally probably the only blight in this game though, because everything else in this game just landed so well for me. I love the camera mechanics. I love the way how you can do your own solution to a level quite often. As the difficulty ramped up, it did start to make me scratch my head a few times. And then sometimes when I spotted the solution, I'd be like, Simon, because they would be so obvious, but your brain is so conditioned by that point to be like, everything can happen. You then forget about some of the most obvious choices that you could make. And I think that's probably where some people might not enjoy this game so much. Sometimes the difficulty doesn't ramp up too much because actually the solutions quite often are very elegant and simple. And quite a lot of levels, if you get tuned into how levels are designed, I imagine could be solvable within a minute or two. And so that might kind of make you go, oh, it's a bit repetitive, or it's variations on a theme of things. I personally just didn't play it that way. And so I think there probably will be two schools of camp for this game, and some will kind of go, oh, it was repetitive, and others will be like, wow, I could do whatever I want and just be enchanted by the fact that you have such unlimited freedom in a game like this. The other thing that I'd say as well, the final level, oh my god, what a difficulty spike. The last level is timed, and it takes on every single thing that you've learned along the way and then asks you to chain it together extremely quickly within 5 minutes. That took me quite a few goes to get through, and was such a difficulty spike compared to everything else that you've done in the game. I believe you can turn the timer off in the menus, but I didn't know that until after I'd done it. So well done me not. But yeah, that anomaly aside, this isn't a game where you have to do too much in terms of like ridiculous timing all the way through. There are a few things where like power is restored for a few seconds and you have to run to the exit, that kind of thing. But nothing that requires such a ridiculous amount of chained up things altogether. So yeah, I feel like I'm rambling on. So to summarise, love this game, met the hype for me, thoroughly entertaining, loved the fact that I could just go completely freeballing my way around the levels trying to work out exactly how to solve things. And I think if you approach this game with that mindset, you'll have much more fun with it than if you're looking purely at solution, and the efficiency of the game rather than the creativity of it, I guess. And that might be a bit of a weird thing to sell the game on, but yeah, loved it. Written review over on higherplanegames.com. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.